The first thing you should know is that I never expected my life to become the kind of story people whisper about over coffee after church. For 40 years, I believed in ordinary: marriage, work, children, community. Ordinary can be a good life. It was mine. Then the morning of my husband's funeral split it in two. New Hope Baptist was full, the kind of packed that warms the heart on most Sundays. Not that day. Gospel hymns rose, voices braided together, but every note fell into the hollow place inside me. We were saying goodbye to my husband, Marshall Mack Turner, father, neighbor, the man who could fix a broken air conditioner faster than most men could find the toolbox. They said a sudden storm flipped his small fishing boat on Lake Norman. No body recovered. The sheriff called it presumed drowned. Presumed? It is a word that sounds polite until it sits on your chest. It left a thin seam of doubt I could not smooth down. I sat in the front pew in a black dress I had bought yesterday, because formal grief is not something a woman keeps in her closet. Simone, our daughter, was on my right, composed in a tailored suit and that efficient silence she wears to work. On my left, our son Jalen kept tugging his borrowed tie, trying to be brave. Reverend Clark's eulogy described a good man with steady hands. I wanted to sink into it and rest. Then my purse buzzed against my hip. I would never answer a call in a sanctuary, not for anything, not even for Mac, but it was not a call. The screen glowed with an unknown number. I'm still alive, that's not me in the casket, trust no one. I didn't drop the phone, but I almost lost my breath. I read it twice, 3 times, as if the words would become ordinary if I kept looking. They did not. I slipped the phone into my lap and stared at the white lilies on the casket that did not hold a body. Alive how? The boat, the tackle box, the jacket snagged on the dock. I had cried myself empty on that evidence. My hands shook. I typed with clumsy fingers. Who is this? What kind of joke is this? The reply came too quickly. I can't say, they're watching. Don't trust anyone, not even family. I lifted my eyes. Simone's face looked calm, too calm, the way you look when you've already decided how the next hour will go. Jalen's grief sat openly on his shoulders. I did not believe that message could be talking about my own children. Then again, I did not believe I would ever read those words at my husband's funeral. After the benediction, the fellowship hall filled with food and kindness. Fried chicken, collard, mac and cheese, and peach cobbler. The church knows how to carry sorrow to the table. People told me stories about Mac, a repair he did for free, a time he dropped everything to help. I smiled and nodded and heard almost nothing. I slipped into the coat room and read the message again. I'm still alive. Trust no one. The door opened. Simone's head appeared. Mom, everyone's asking for you. Are you okay? I slid the phone into my purse. I'm fine, I said, the smile tight. She held my gaze a second longer than casual, like a realtor measuring a room. I went back to the noise and the warmth, made a plate I couldn't eat, and felt my phone buzz again. Watch the house title, don't sign anything. The fork fell from my hand. Across the room, Simone spoke in low tones to a stylish man I didn't know. When I looked, they stopped talking. I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself grief makes shadows where none exist, but I kept my purse close and counted each breath. People said Mac and I were dependable. We didn't chase flash. We raised our children in a modest ranch, ran Monroe's Diner with more pride than money, and paid the bills on time. I met him in the summer of '82, sweat on his brow, grease on his shirt, honest in his eyes. We married a year later and opened a 12-booth diner with a neon sign that buzzed louder than the jukebox on rainy nights. I baked pies from my grandmother's recipes. He fixed what broke. We built a family in that glow. Simone grew up ambitious, blazers, contracts, a condo uptown. She loved us, but she loved progress more. Mom, she would say as she wrinkled her nose at the fryer smell, sell the diner, sell the house, retire. Jalen stayed close, school teacher, church pianist, steady as a porch post. If Simone was the forward motion of our family, Jalen was the anchor. Mac admired both. Time blew through our diner like an honest wind. Chains moved in, shinier and louder. The pandemic almost finished us. We survived with pie orders and faith, but the customers thinned. Then Mac refinanced the house for cash flow, he said. His partner Reggie was struggling in the HVAC business. Mac had never hidden money matters from me. That signature sat wrong in my chest. Family dinners got colder. Simone talked numbers. Jalen talked memory. Mac rubbed his eyes and said, "One day it will all be yours, don't fight about it now." But trouble doesn't wait for one day. It starts with small silences and grows into folders you never asked to sign. There was Patris, Mac's older sister, polished and impatient, who measured all worth on a ledger. She spoke the language of property and exit strategies. In the weeks before the so-called accident, Patris called often about estate planning. At the funeral, she moved like an organizer, always near Simone, always with a leather folder in hand. Reggie, Mac's friend since high school, kept stepping outside during the repast to take calls, the way a man does when his mind is not with the mourners. He offered me quick smiles that did not touch his eyes. And everything happened fast. The sheriffs presumed drowned, Patris insisting on a quick service for closure. A casket without a body. Closure is a beautiful word in the abstract. It is a blade in the real. That night, alone at the kitchen table, I scrolled through old photos and stopped at one from the week before the accident. Mac grinning with a slice of pie. In the window's reflection stood Reggie with a manila envelope under his arm, half turned away. It meant nothing. It meant everything. The text from the funeral pulsed in my head like a low bell. I'm still alive. Trust no one. 2 mornings later, Simone arrived at my kitchen table in a cream pantsuit, hair slicked back, and set a leather folder between us. "We need to talk about next steps," she said, her tone brisk, professional. "The house, the diner, Dad's business. Probate can get messy. I drafted a quick claim deed. If you sign, we can transfer the house into a trust. It protects you. Watch the house title. Don't sign anything." "Thank you," I said, smiling the way you do when you're in a room with a wild animal. "Let me think." "Don't take too long," she said, eyes cool. "Delays create problems." Later that day, Reggie stopped by the diner. The lunchtime rush was a memory. The neon hum filled the quiet. He lowered himself onto a stool and said, "I miss him too." I asked what happened on the lake. He said storms come fast and Mac wasn't wearing a vest, but Mac never stepped on water without a vest. Ever. Reggie's eyes slid sideways as if the truth were somewhere on the wall. Small things began to pull like loose threads. The sheriff mentioned a dark blue windbreaker recovered near the dock. Mac didn't own one. He wore his green fishing vest or that old Panthers hoodie. The color felt like a lie wearing a coat. Near midnight, a text lit my nightstand. "Check the diner's office, bottom drawer." I was at the diner by dawn. The office smelled of paper, metal, and coffee stains. At the back of the bottom drawer, an envelope with my name in Mac's handwriting. The note inside was short, plain, steady. "Ava, if you're reading this, something isn't right. Simone and Patris are pressing me about insurance and the house. Reggie is acting strange. Don't sign anything until you know the truth." I pressed it to my chest and cried the kind of tears that clear the eyes rather than cloud them. When I stepped back into the morning, a black SUV idled across the street with windows too dark. When I took one step toward it, it pulled away. Watching, always watching. The next days were a study in restraint. I went to the bank. The branch manager, who knew us by name, printed statements and slid them across the desk. 3 months of large withdrawals, $2, $500, $3,000 marked as business. Mac's signature on the slips, familiar but off, like a song played in the wrong key. Reggie accompanied him once or twice, the manager said. My stomach tightened. I pulled the insurance files from Mac's bottom drawer at home. The policy I knew, $20,000, practical enough to bury a man. Then a second policy dated 6 months ago, $250,000, beneficiaries listed as Simone Turner and Patris Monroe. Not me. The signature was Mac's shape, not his hand. Grief makes you doubt yourself. I held that paper until my doubt drained away and left only cold. Another text, they forged his signature. Check the notary. At the county clerk's office, lemon cleaner and old paper filled the air. A clerk found the record, a notary tied to Patris's circle. Not luck, design. That night I called Jalen. "Mom," he said, voice tired and warm, "I felt it too. Their whispers stop when I walk in. Reggie won't take my calls. We made a promise, no one signs anything." The following afternoon, another text. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m., old train station. Come alone. This is about Mac." The old station had been falling down longer than I've been alive. The platform's shadow held a man in a worn jacket with careful eyes. "Mrs. Turner," he said quietly, Marcus Green, private investigator. Your husband hired me 3 weeks before the funeral. Hearing that nearly took my knees. He opened a small recorder and pressed play. Mac's voice filled the stale air, measured, tired, sure. If something happens to me, it won't be an accident. Simone is pushing insurance. Patris keeps asking about the deed. Reggie S. asking me strange questions. I don't trust them. Marcus laid out photographs, Simone and Patris at a law office, the two of them with Reggie outside a bar, faces tight, copies of policy forms marked Rush. He said the word I had been avoiding, collusion. I took the first messages, he admitted, but not the one from the funeral about him being alive. Somebody else sent that. He handed me another envelope in Mac's hand. My Ava, if you're reading this, I couldn't stop them. Simone believes she's protecting us. Patris poisoned her. Reggie is not who you think. Protect Jalen. Trust your instincts. Love, Mac. I put it in my purse like a passport. Why not go to the police? I asked. I tried, Marcus said. Without your husband alive to confirm, this looks like a family argument, and Simone's firm has long ties downtown. Then what do we do? I asked. You gather proof, he said. Silently, then you move when they expect you to fold. They did not wait long to force my hand. Friday afternoon, Simone and Patris arrived uninvited, heels like a gavel on tile. Simone laid papers on my kitchen table and slid a pen toward me. Mom, enough delays, she said evenly. We've lined up buyers. You'll be safer in a condo. No stress. This house, I said, was built by my husband's hands. Patris leaned forward and spoke the way a person speaks when they think you're already beaten. Ava, you're letting grief cloud your judgment. I pulled Mac's note from the diner office and set it between us. Simone and Patris read the line, "Don't trust them," without touching the paper. Simone swallowed. Patris recovered first. He was tired, she said lightly. People scribble nonsense when they're tired. I slid the papers back. I'm not signing. Before they left, Patris said softly, "You'll regret this sooner than you think." That night, Jalen and I got to work. We divided tasks like we used to divide chores in the diner. He dug through public filings. I combed receipts and drawers and boxes with the patience grief teaches. By Sunday night, Jalen dropped a folder on my table. Look, he said, multiple property transfers tied to a shell company linked to Reggie. One signed 2 weeks before the accident. Witness, Simone Turner. I could not speak for a moment. I saw Simone at 8 years old in booth number 3, promising to take care of me someday. Promises can age badly. Some crystallize, some rot. Then came a text. They're planning to declare you incompetent. Hearing Monday. If they win, they control everything. I did not sleep much that night. I gathered what mattered, Mac's letters, the forged forms, the bank copies, the notary record. I called Marcus at dawn. He answered on the first ring. It's time, he said. We'll need a handwriting examiner, financial timelines, and character witnesses. And you must walk into court with your mind steady and your house in order. So I set my own small trap. On Sunday afternoon, I invited Simone and Patris for tea. I softened my voice and pretended to falter. Maybe I can't manage, I said. Maybe signing is best. They leaned forward like the hungry do. Simone pulled the papers with a small flourish. Patris pushed the pen. Before I touched it, I asked, why does the death certificate say heart failure when the hospital file lists signs of toxic ingestion? For a heartbeat, the room went still. Simone's hand froze mid-reach. Patris's face smoothed into mask so quickly it might have been practiced. You don't know what you're talking about, she said. I have copies, I answered, and a judge will read them before I sign anything. They left with tight mouths and fast steps. On the morning of the hearing, I wore the navy dress Mac liked and my mother's brooch. Jalen told me I looked strong. Strength is not how you feel, it is how you stand. The courthouse smelled like old polish and paper. Simone and Patris sat with their lawyer and an air of inevitability. Reggie hung back, tapping his foot. Their attorney spoke first. Paranoia, grief, confusion, safety. He brought a doctor who had never examined me to imply decline, and he did it with a soft voice, which is cruelty's favorite tool. Marcus stood and objected. The judge, a woman with wise eyes, allowed our case to unfold. We called people who actually knew me, our pastor, our neighbor Doris, who spoke of clarity and steadiness. Then we laid our papers on the judge's bench in a neat row. Authentic signatures, forged signatures, bank records with funds flowing from Simone into Petrus's firm and Reggie's holding, the notary tied to Petrus. And finally, the hospital's notes beside the death certificate, the blunt disagreement between evidence and declaration. Two truths have been written about one man, Marcus said. Only one can stand. The judge looked at Simone and Petrus long and hard. Do you wish to respond? Simone said, I misunderstood. Petrus took notes, as if the right adjective could undo what was on paper. I stood. Your Honor, I said, I may be a widow, but I am not confused. My husband's death may have been called an accident. My daughter and sister-in-law acted like caretakers. My husband's friend called himself a partner, but the record says otherwise. The judge dismissed the petition and referred the matter to the district attorney. The air changed in that room. A door you cannot see opened. We walked out into it. The investigation moved faster than rumors. Subpoenas, depositions, confiscated drives. A recording landed on Marcus's desk, anonymous, clean Petrus's voice saying, "Make it say heart failure. We'll make it worth your while," and the sound of an electronic transfer chiming like a bell in a bad church. Simone's car was towed for evidence one morning with cameras watching. Petrus tried to explain things to reporters with the desperation of a person who has built her life on spotless surfaces. Reggie vanished, then reappeared smaller and quieter. I did not celebrate. Celebration was not the shape of this victory. Instead, I took steps that would keep me upright when the world stopped spinning, placed the house in a trust with Jalen as trustee, cleaned Mac's workshop, planted a small row of sunflowers behind the porch. You cannot hate and heal in the same room. I chose what would outlive the hate. In court, the prosecutor told the story with ledgers and dates. I told it with a steady voice and a single photograph of Mac at the diner with a slice of pie. We both told the truth. The jury believed the paper first. Then they looked at the people. Guilty on fraud, conspiracy, falsification. Peace is not loud. It is the quiet you earn after the storm stops insisting on itself. Life after betrayal is slower. You relearn your own kitchen, how the light falls at 4 p.m., how the house sounds when it is only you and the clock. Jalen filled the rooms with music. Neighbors brought seedlings for the garden. Marcus said I should tell my story to help others, and I did, carefully, not to reopen wounds, but to give someone else a map out of the dark. We founded a small organization to help widows and elders navigate paperwork in a world where paperwork can be a weapon. The first woman we helped stopped her brother from transferring her house to himself with a signature she never made. She hugged me in the parking lot and said, "If you could stand up, I can too." I did not expect one more envelope, but a final twist arrived as quiet as a spider on a windowsill. A short, unsigned letter from a prison clerk, a single line, Petrus wasn't the first bribe. Your husband's policy was flagged months earlier by someone you still know. I sat for a long time with that one sentence. I had believed the betrayal ended at my own table. Perhaps it started in an office I thought was friendly. Perhaps what we uncovered was only the first layer of rot. The garden did not stop me from looking. It steadied me while I did. On the 5th anniversary of Mac's passing, we gathered by those sunflowers. I read the words on his stone, beloved husband, betrayed father, honorable man. His truth lives on, and I felt gratitude more than sadness. That is a kind of miracle. Some people will ask if I forgave my daughter. Forgiveness is not a switch. It is the work of years, and it is not the same as reunion. I pray over Simone's name. I keep the porch light off. Both things can be true. This is what I learned. Family is not a blood contract. It is daily loyalty. Simone chose ambition. Petrus chose control. Reggie chose cowardice. Jalen chose love without polish. The pastor, Doris, Marcus, each chose to stand beside a woman who could have been dismissed as confused. Mac chose to warn me in time. I keep Mac's last letter in a small frame by my bed. In the morning, I touch the glass and whisper, "I heard you." At night, I thank God for the stubborn mercy that carried me through the courthouse doors. Truth is patient. It waits. It doesn't rush. It knocks the same way each day until someone opens. When I could barely stand, it stood for me. When I lost my voice, it spoke through paper. When I wanted to hate, it asked me to plant something instead. If you are reading this because your own ground has shifted, hear me. Do not sign the paper that does not feel right in your bones. Make copies. Write names, keep your eyes open, ask for help. There are good people who will stand with you, not because they need your story, but because they recognize it. As for the unanswered line in that letter, someone I still know, the truth will knock there too. When the door opens, I will be ready. Until then, I keep the house warm, the garden tended, the porch swept. I bake pies on the first Sunday of every month for the church fundraiser. I make a seat at my table for anyone who needs it. When the neon sign buzzes in my memory, I think of the way Mac would wink at me when a hard day ended and say, "We made it through, Ava, head on." I did not choose this story, but I chose how to live it, and I choose to keep choosing, one steady step at a time.